Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico Easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
It's 2:07 on the John Phillips Show, Talk Radio 790 KABC, broadcasting live in exile from my living room in Palm Springs, California. And it's time to open up the state of California for business. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
The bids for recalling Gavin Newsom are getting more real by the day. Yesterday, Mary Carey made it official. Today, it looks like Caitlyn Jenner is dipping her toe officially by tweeting out #RecallGavin.
And didn't she promote the organization that our pal Rick Grinnell is promoting?
RescueCalifornia.org is the thing that she promoted. She says they're doing a great job, and it is time to recall Gavin. Californians are fed up with the lack of leadership in Sacramento.
She is inching one step closer to tossing her girdle into the ring. Now, what do you think Kris is going to do, the ex-wife, Kris Jenner? You think she's going to come out and endorse Caitlyn, or do you think she's going to stay on the sidelines? Or could she be one of these Katie Hill exes?
She will try to find some way to get an e-television camera into this campaign. If that doesn't happen, she'll go full on the attack.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I heard that Caitlyn Jenner was going to run for governor, I thought to myself, which network is the show going to be on? E, Bravo, or Lifetime? But stranger things have happened. Arnold Schwarzenegger was an actor. He came in and had never run for office before, and he won the recall election the last time we had one. So who's saying that Caitlyn Jenner couldn't do it?
At this point, with a potential 150 candidates, anything can happen in a recall.
Now, you mentioned that Mary Carey is thinking about running again. I saw yesterday that Angeline's going to do it too.
She's going to drive up and down the state in that pink Lambo.
Did I ever tell you about the time that Jillian and I ran into her at El Coyote?
Oh, what happened?
She came up to Jillian as if she knew who she was. And, you know, Jillian, of course, has interviewed her many times on Good Day L.A., and Jillian had remembered Angeline from those previous interviews. And Angeline came up to Jillian, and I thought, oh, okay, well, she's going to want to take a picture, or she's going to want to say hello, or she's going to want to get booked on the show, something along those lines. And she starts talking to her, and then talks her into doing a picture, and then tries to charge her for the picture. It's the first time I'd ever seen that happen before. And it wasn't like we were at Comic-Con. We were standing outside of El Coyote waiting to go in and have lunch.
That's the move from the waitresses at El Cholo. Angeline's doing that?
Yeah, she just parked her car right out in front of the restaurant. I thought she was coming in for lunch. Apparently, she was setting up for business. She was working the corner. So she could be running for governor. And last time around, we had a lot of colorful characters who put their names on the ballot. In addition to Arnold Schwarzenegger, we, of course, had Larry Flint, the well-known pornographer and owner of Hustler magazine. We had Gary Coleman from Different Strokes. And we had Ariana Huffington, who apparently is still alive today. So who knows? Maybe she'll run again. And with the proliferation of reality TV, Randy, I can't imagine there'll be fewer than 135 candidates this time. I bet you there'll be more.
It's going to be a super circus, and it's going to be a fun summer.
Now, we're efforting to get Prince Frederick von Anhalt on the program because sources close to him have told me that he is considering a run for governor himself.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Oh, please. That would be fantastic.
You know, we've got a lot of royalty here in California. We've got Prince Harry, we've got Meghan Markle, and we've got Prince Frederick von Anhalt. Who knows? Maybe Meghan Markle could throw her hat in the ring. And we could have royalty versus royalty. Although that wouldn't be the matchup that I'd be looking at. How much money would you pay to see Antonio Villaraigosa debate Mary Carey?
That is what this campaign really needs. Villaraigosa, like once a week, he'll tweet out something that it's kind of a slide at Gavin. He's been pretty quiet this week so far, but even though he's saying publicly, I'm not going to run, I think he's going to run.
Well, I don't know if Antonio Villaraigosa versus Mary Carey is what we need, but it's certainly what we deserve. Well, the warden is trying to make sure that the voters vote down the recall attempt when it comes to the ballot. So he's having these press conferences on a regular basis using the same 5 or 6 buzzwords over and 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 over again, hoping that that will convince us that he's doing a good job at keeping us vaccinated and healthy and employed. In fact, Randy, you have a montage of the most recent press conference.
That's right. He was at Northern California today at a big school reopening, talking about what a great job he's doing. Now, you don't have the time to sit and listen to 25 minutes of Gavin Newsom, so I watched this thing, and I isolated down the 15 most important seconds from Gavin Newsom's press conference earlier this afternoon.
And we cannot put down our guard. We can't take off our mask. We need to be mindful, and we need to be stubborn. So I'm here in that spirit, sober, mindful of the moment we're in. And we must do it sustainably. That's foundational, and that's principle.
You know what he sounds like? He sounds like that motivational speaker, Tony Robbins, if Tony Robbins dropped some LSD.
He has a very weird cadence of talking, and he does it constantly, and it's really hard to understand where he thinks that gets across as something that a human would say.
Do you think that he speaks like that late at night when he's in bed at Pillow Talk? Let's get his campaign manager's wife on the phone and find out. I'm curious. Now, he's the king of the buzzwords, but apparently there's one buzz term that he doesn't like a whole lot, and that is learning loss. Let's listen.
And so we march into this extended opportunity to get our kids back in in-person instruction, looking anew at the school calendar, looking anew at our approaches to intervention and learning loss, though the phrase learning loss is questionable because in order to lose something, you have to have gained something. At the end of the day, it's really not learning loss. It's the unfinished learning that needs to be done in person that we really need to tackle with intensive and comprehensive interventions.
What?
That was actually unintended honesty. He says that we shouldn't use the term learning loss because I guess you have to learn something in the first place to lose it.
So he's admitting kids have learned nothing last year.
I would love to ask a follow-up. So how long has it been since anyone's learned anything at LAUSD, Sarah? Going back to the 60s, the 50s? What decade are we talking?
LAUSD got a big shout out, and he uses even new, weirder buzzwords to talk about his accomplishments.
Oh, God. Every time we do a story about what's going on at LAUSD, the only thing those kids seem to be learning is where to point on the dolly to show them where the bad man touched them. Anyway, let's move on. What do you say?
This is a challenging transition, but we're finally at that point. 9,000+ schools as of last month of our 11,000 schools in the state have firmly either reopened for in-person instruction or have announced a date for in-person instruction. Every single day, hundreds of schools are reopening. Proof point, San Diego this week. Proof point, San Francisco this week. Proof point, the largest school district in the state of California, second largest in America, Los Angeles, opening hundreds of schools in their communities.
That's the new one. Proof point.
Proof point, proof point, proof point. Now, you notice he doesn't get into the details because when you hear that, you think, okay, their kids are going back to school. That means they're riding buses. That means it's 5 days a week. That means there's after-school activities like sports and theater and science fair projects. No, 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 no. He's giving them credit for going back to on-campus instruction if they're only there mere hours a week. Well, if you're a parent and your child is going to school for 2 hours a week or whatever it is that they're going back, I would imagine it's different depending on what school or what district you're talking about, how can you plan a work schedule around that? How could you plan a childcare schedule around that? How could you change your life one iota unless they have the same schedule every day, 5 days a week, and you know what to plan for? It's not helpful, and it's not on-campus instruction in any real way. Now, because the warden is a robot who malfunctions every time he opens his mouth, he finds it hard to relate to his constituency. Here he is trying to relate to the parents of students in the state of California who are kept at home.
I'm a parent of 4 young kids. The oldest just turned 11. There are few things more important to me than the quality of their education and their unique experience.
He did that laugh thing again.
He always does that when he's lying. He laughs for no reason.
Do you think he knows all 4 of his kids' names?
You know, that would be an interesting game show, wouldn't it? Oh, yeah, I know that one. That one's the tall one with the glasses. How about this one over here? Oh, yeah, that's the one that won't stop talking. Takes after her daddy. So, all of this leads to the question, what about the schools that refuse to reopen? We hear from our favorite union president here at UTLA, and if you pay attention to what she has to say, she has no interest in reopening anytime soon. What do you do about people like her?
I want all the schools to reopen. I've been crystal clear about that going back to December. We put out a specific strategy in December to safely reopen our schools for public instruction and in-person instruction. We put out $6.6 billion, and I was very grateful that the legislature embraced that in order to help advance that cause. The 9,000s from March, as I just noted, hundreds of schools are opening every single day. So mark my word, that number is much closer to 11,000 than 9,000, but there are outliers, and we've got to work through those issues. It's too much at stake. And so the bell has rung on those that want to hold back that progress. And I want to challenge those districts, but I also want to support them. Look, I'm mindful of the stresses that they're under. That's why we put up the money. That's why we created this schools hub. That's why we put up more testing. That's why we're doing the vaccination. I prioritize those teachers. Got a lot of grief when we did that. 10% of all those first dose vaccinations went to classified employees, went to childcare. Because again, our teachers, a lot of them can't go back to school because of their own childcare needs. We prioritize those childcare workers as well. We put up $1 billion+ to support childcare in the last 12 months. Another $400 million we're putting out in our May revise to help support our childcare workers as well. It's all connected. So again, I'm not here to do any. I guess what I'm saying is I don't have a closed fist on this. I have an open hand, but I hope they have an open heart, because the consequences of delay are profound, particularly for our diverse communities. And if they need more, let me know what more you need. This is real money we're putting up. Money's not an object now. It's an excuse. Again, I said resources and a resourceful mindset. That resourceful mindset is needed at this moment. It's alive and well here at this school. You walk around, you see that resourcefulness. Folks that are committed, not interested in getting their kids safely back in in-person instruction, and made it clear to me they're looking forward to seeing them back 5 days a week fully in just a few months. That commitment is real, and that's why I'm here today to celebrate that commitment.
You know, with the way that he speaks, I'm standing here with an open hand, not a fist. How many days do you think he'd last as a writer at Hallmark?
I want to be mindful of the cohort that is your birthday.
And he was also asked about the parents who want to keep their kids at home and not send them back to school.
Well, look, I always believe in meeting people where they are, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have in education broadly. Forgive me. One size does not fit all. And so customized learning experience, personalizing it, to me, is foundational. And I think a lot of the lessons we've learned this last year will make us even stronger moving forward, because I think we've understood that, particularly with this online effort. That said, we want that flexibility, but our default is to get kids back safe in the schools. But look, by August, I'm expecting by June 15th, substantially to reopen this economy again. We're at 1.7% positivity rate today. We have 23 million people vaccinated. There'll be over 30 million people vaccinated just in a number of weeks. We'll be at 40 million by the middle of next month, the end of next month. By August, everybody who wanted a vaccine will have had a chance to have a vaccine, and we'll have many different choices of which vaccine. So I would expect and anticipate that the anxiety will give way to some new reality by August, and that will be an exception. And I think you always accommodate, but to me, that's an extreme exception. And I expect all our kids to be back. That's what I expect, with caveats, always, with caveats. Expect our kids back safely in person instruction in the fall.
With caveats means not 5 days a week, not with sports, not with theater, not with buses, not with the lunch lady, not with all the things that you would expect for an on-campus experience. Now, if LAUSD and other districts refuse to reopen, the question keeps coming up: can the governor force them to reopen? Let's listen to his answer.
Governor, can you mandate that schools give the option to, this is a very decentralized system. California is the size of 21 states population combined. I say that all the time, but I do it to impress upon you the complexity of governance in a state as large as ours. There's no other system of public education in the United States like this system. As a consequence, you have independently elected school boards, county, local. You have a lot of voice, and you have a lot of flexibility. It's designed into the system. And so mandates are often not looked upon as favorably as you would like to think.
And then there's the $50,000 question, which is the warden still confident that we're going to be open for business on June 15th?
Well, look, I love the question. I'm processing as he answers. I understand the uncertainty because we've been in this mindset for a year. But maybe I see a different future than some are seeing. I see a much brighter future, and I see it happening sooner than people expect. And I think that's the shift. You know, there's an old adage, once the mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. By the way, that's what I love about this school, with this college-going culture for these young kids. I love that. My mind has been stretched in this context. There's a bright light at the end of this tunnel. We're seeing it with the vaccine rates. We're seeing it with the positivity rates. We're seeing it across this country. Variant aside, we have 1,097 UK variants. It's not Michigan. We're not Florida. I admit and acknowledge it's a race against the variants. In fact, the UK variant aside, the biggest variant for us is the West Coast variant. There are two. There's over 12,500 that we've sequenced. That's, to me, more relevant to California's unique conditions, but we are mindful when you're 11,000 or almost 1,100 UK variants that we have to keep on top of that, and we are. So one thing I know about this pandemic is, and I've said this 100 times, I'll repeat it probably until I say it 1,000. One word to describe the last year is humility. And the J&J announcement yesterday is a perfect example of that. When you're moving with expectation and then new challenge, new roadblock presents itself. So we're always mindful of that. But I really believe that in a few months, not only are we going to reach that June 15th deadline, where you're going to be back to some semblance of normalcy, but by this fall, once again, that bell will have rung, and I expect people enthusiastically will be making their way into community colleges, our CSUs and UCs and private universities, as well as our K through 12 system.
How confident are you, Randy, that we're going to be open on June 15th after hearing that?
I'm not very mindful about it.
I'm not mindful either. It's 226. Let's take a look at the roads.
It's the $25K weekday payday on 790 KABC. You could win $100 and qualify for the grand prize of $25,000. The winners are just falling from the sky. Merlinda Santa Clarita won during Larry's show. Gina Pomona won during Johnny's show. And Lorraine from the Valley won during Shapiro's show. Look at all that. They grabbed $100 and now they're in the drawing for $25,000. Listen for the national keyword today, hourly between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. The $25K weekday payday. It pays to listen and it's easy to win on KABC.
It's 2:31 on the John Phillips Show, Talk Radio 790 KABC. Coming up in moments, independent journalist Alex Berenson joins us. But right now it's time for Headline. It's 2:37 on the John Phillips Show, Talk Radio 790 KABC. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. It's a pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a fearless reporter and author of the book Unreported Truths About COVID-19 and Lockdowns, available online at amazon.com. That's part 1 and part 2. Alex Berenson, welcome.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm good, although I just listened to sound from Warden Newsom give a press conference about the reopening of schools in California. And the impression that you get when you listen to him is completely different from the substance of what he actually said. He is putting out this extremely optimistic tone that the schools are going to reopen in California very soon, that it's going to be a quick reopening, and don't you worry, children will be learning yet again. But if you just scratch the surface, he's not talking about 5 days a week on campus with athletics and after-school activities and science fair and all the things that go along with on-campus instruction. He's talking about checking a box where maybe it's 2 hours a week, maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Everyone gets to decide. But as long as there's something, the schools are technically back in session. That's unbelievably disingenuous, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, look, schools should be open 5 days a week. Schools should be open normally. Anything less than that should be unacceptable. And by the way, and this may be a more controversial thing to say, parents should not really have the option going forward of not sending their kids. Okay, it should be back to the old, an old normal where if your kid was enrolled in school, he or she was going to school.
And that's something that Kamala Harris, back when she was Attorney General of California, that's a rule that she enforced very vigorously. I mean, she would criminally prosecute parents if they weren't sending their kids to school. Yet now it seems like everyone's happy just to leave the kids out of school forever.
Well, not everybody, but, between the teachers' unions, which, absolutely are happy with this state of affairs, or at least, the unions are. I'm not saying all teachers are, but the unions appear to be very happy with it. And the parents who are, scared, totally unreasonably scared of the risk to their kids, which is essentially nil. There's a fair number of people out there who don't seem to care whether schools come back. But we don't let parents not send their kids to school because they're afraid that they're going to get hit by lightning. That is essentially the risk. I suspect the risk of a lightning strike is probably higher than COVID deaths for a healthy kid. But yes, Newsom he's trying to have it both ways, right? He knows this is incredibly unpopular among people who are paying, really high property taxes to send their kids to school, or just, people who are paying average property taxes to send their kids to school. And he knows that the teachers' unions are in no way ready to go back. And so he's trying to sound good while doing the minimum possible, which, makes him a politician.
It seems like the political strategy of the teachers' unions is to do whatever it takes to delay the reopening of the schools while not making it obvious that they just don't want to go back to work. So they're saying, look, we need air filtration systems. We need cleaning protocols. And they just keep going down the line of demands of what they say will produce a safe learning environment.
Yes,
now,
6 feet, vaccinate everybody.
Yes.
And now that they have all been vaccinated, or at least it's been offered to all of them, now the kids need to be vaccinated, which is it should be and is a total non-starter. And I've heard even that they suggest that the children's families need to be vaccinated. Who do they think they are? This is not anthrax. Okay, this is a minor risk to nearly all teachers and all children, and they need to, somebody with a spine needs to tell them they're going to go back to work or they're going to get fired. Believe me, they'll go back to work. They've gone back to work in Florida. They've gone back to work in Texas. Teachers are not dropping dead in those places. This is nonsense. Now, my cynical hope, is that they just are doing this to try to get extra, chisel some extra money or some extra benefits, a 10% pay hike for the danger or whatever it is. But the longer this goes, the more it seems that they just don't want to go back to work at all.
If they play a game of chicken and what they're demanding at the last stop on the subway is that all the kids get vaccinated, there is absolutely no way the state of California can step in and force children to take a vaccine that has not been FDA approved in order to go to school to get their education and wasn't even tested on them in the case of many of these vaccines. There's no way that can happen. So if they reach a stalemate on the issue of vaccines for children, that could just leave kids at home for a good long time, couldn't it?
That's right. No, what they'll say is first the vaccine has to be approved for those kids. So that buys them another 6 months. This is insanity. Okay, the state of California, especially, all the West Coast states where this problem has been the worst, are looking at heading into a second full year without in-school instruction for large numbers of students. This has to stop. I mean, we have universal basic education in the United States, and and so does most of the rest of the world. Like countries that don't offer their children educations for free and universally are few and far between. This is just insane.
In the state of California, Newsom says we're going to open up to some degree on June the 15th, although he won't give us details. The neighboring state of Nevada says they're going to be 100% open in June. In Michigan, they're seeing an uptick in cases, and they went to the feds and asked for more vaccine. CDC Director Walensky told them to drop dead and said, no, you don't need more vaccine. You need to shut your state back down again. Do you have any degree of confidence at all that California will be open on June 15th, Nevada will be open on June 1st, or do you think they're going to continue to play the game where they say they're going to open us up and then they close us down and open us up and close us down and open us up?
No, I think they'll be reopened. Newsom wants to be governor, and he's aware now that this is wildly unpopular, or increasingly unpopular, I should say. Look, Nevada isn't just going to be reopened. Today the UFC announced they're going to have an in-arena fight with full capacity in Nevada. That's 20,000 people inside. Now that is truly a return to pre-pandemic, and they didn't say anything about vaccines being needed. Look, you mentioned the unreported truth booklets. I've actually written 4 now, and the most recent one is about vaccines. And the vaccine story is very interesting and very complicated. And you're just seeing a little piece of that with the discussion over the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and whether or not it needs to be suspended, the use. But one reason I can tell you, although the CDC would never, ever admit this, one reason that they don't want to send extra vaccine doses to Michigan is it's very clear from the real-world data that in the days following the first dose, there's an increase in infections. Now, that was true in Israel. It was true in Britain. It's been true basically all over the world. When you begin a mass vaccination campaign or aggressively ramp it up, you get a short-term rise in infections and then in deaths. And there's several reasons, there's several theories as to why that might be. But they don't want to talk about that because they have enough problems right now with vaccine hesitancy, which I would call like reasonable vaccine skepticism. So they're not going to admit the truth. But that is one reason why the CDC does not want to send more doses to Michigan.
You referenced the recall election impacting Newsom's behavior. There was just a poll that was done here in California that showed that the group of people who wanted to toss him from office more than any other racial or ethnic group are Latinos. Latinos historically have voted Democrat in the state of California and nationally, and that number surprised a lot of people. I looked at that and I said, this is a direct result of the lockdowns. If you work in Silicon Valley, your life has not been impacted that much. If you work in banking, your life has not been impacted that much. But if you own a restaurant, if you own a small business, if you have kids that go to school, it's been absolutely devastating. And the draconian lockdowns that we've seen here in California, I believe, are producing maybe just for one election, but it's producing a realignment of the electorate in ways that could really backfire in Newsom's face.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're correct. First of all, you saw, interestingly, considering the media, the elite media made him out to be terribly anti-Hispanic. You saw a move to towards Latinos voting for Donald Trump. I mean, which if the vote for a guy who talks about building a wall, clearly the mainstream media is missing some dynamic. And I think you're completely right. Also, Latinos own a lot of small businesses. A lot of them, are employed informally, where they're not necessarily going to be able to apply for unemployment if the business goes away. I'm not at all surprised to hear that. I mean, small business owners and people who work for themselves are the people who were most likely to be punished by lockdowns and who dislike them the most. And that's a lot. Whether it's somebody who owns a landscaping company or works for a landscaping company, or not to stereotype, owns a laundry or a taqueria, the small businesses and businesses that are not protected.
Alex Bernson is the guest. The book is Unreported Truths About COVID-19 and Lockdowns. There are now 6 editions, all available online at Amazon.com. Alex, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for stopping by.
John, thanks for having me.
It's 2:48. Let's go ahead and take a look at the road. It's 2:54 on the John Phillips Show, Talk Radio 790 KABC. Randy, that's going to do it for us today.
That's right. And that's going to do it for me till Friday, because I got my second shot of the vaccine and I might not be feeling so good in a couple hours.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to be doing a lot of Netflix and chilling, so you go home and rest up, and hopefully we'll chat again on Friday.
Yes, I'll see you for Jimmy Buffett Friday right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.